About a few days ago, I came across something that sent shivers down my spine. Something that I knew I would see one day. I mean, in my practice, I knew I was going to come across it. So I eventually did come across it, because this is something I've been talking about for a very long time. For people who follow this page or even pay attention to my videos, I have repeatedly spoken about this over and over and over again. So what I saw for the very first time in my practice was a case of an infection that looks like a superbug. So a quick definition: a superbug is an infection that has become resistant to all the antibiotics available. So this infection I saw, which I said looks like a superbug, was resistant to all the antibiotics that they tested it against. Now, remember I said I knew I was going to see it one day, because in my practice we have people who have infections, and when they come to us, when they do something called an MCS, which is a testing of the infection against different antibiotics, you will see that some antibiotics that infection is resistant to, while some it is susceptible to. Some have intermediate. So you know that infection isn't fully a superbug, but it's getting there. But alas, I saw one for the first time a few days ago, and I explained to the person who sent the result the implication of what that means. This is the result. Now, when I told the individual the implication, I'm not sure they understood it, but let me just explain what the implication is. The implication of having a superbug means that the infection you have is incurable, except they invent a new antibiotic, and that infection is not resistant to the new antibiotic. That is the only time the person can ever get cured of it. And then the implication of having such infection in men is that the bacteria will go and kill off the sperm cells. So you will see a man, when he does his semen analysis, there could be 60 million sperm cells, but 99% of them are dead, or even 100% of them are dead. Why? Because that infection attacks sperm cells. The bacteria attacks sperm cells. So that renders men infertile, even though they are producing sperm cells, yes, but as they are producing the sperm cells, the bacteria is attacking the sperm cells and killing them off, rendering them sterile. For the women, what it does, if this infection stays in your body untreated, it spreads. So it spreads up and goes into the womb, causing inflammation, and adhesions will begin to form. And then the adhesions can spread up and go into the fallopian tubes and block the fallopian tubes. Once the fallopian tubes are blocked, no natural conception is possible. So those are the implications. Now, it was bad enough that I saw the first case of a superbug ever. This business, I've been practicing it since 2017. I mean, I've been running a herbal practice since 2017. So we are in 2024. That's 7 years. This is the first time I ever saw something that looks like a superbug in 7 years. I've been seeing very bad cases, yes, but never a superbug or anything that looks like it. You can imagine my horror when a second one appeared. This is it. Now, this person is not the same individual, because if you look at the two results, The first one shows that that individual also has candida. So there is a mixed infection of candida and staph. But this other one is just staph. So why I am sounding an alarm, and I pray that it is just, these are just isolated cases, is that it is unusual to see 2 of such cases within a short time. It could be, or it may be, I'm just saying may, I am not sure, but it may be the beginnings of an epidemic. And if it is, everybody needs to know and need to be on alert. That means our sexual habits have to change. No more unprotected intercourse anyhow. You see, if you want to step out of your relationship, use protection. Now, in our own case, we will not take on cases of superbugs. Because if we do, especially if the individuals are not going to use the treatment properly, if we take on the case, what happened to the antibiotics will happen to our products. And if that happens, I have to start from the scratch to look for a new formulation for Staph. Because that infection can acquire resistance to my product or our product, and then the person that, because the person misused the herbal product, and of course it doesn't clear off the infection, if the person sleeps with somebody else, that person will get that strain that is resistant to our product, and before you know it, it spreads into the population. Now let me explain how sexual infections spread, so you can have an idea. You see, one person, just one person can have hundreds of thousands of sexual partners. They just may not be aware, and it happens very simply. If there is a couple, boyfriend and girlfriend sleeping together, and one out of that couple steps out of that relationship and sleeps with somebody else and continues to sleep with the girlfriend, she and that other person have now become sexual partners. And then if that other person has one other person they've slept with, and that other person has other people they're sleeping with, and each of those other people have other people, by the time you trace it, you could be potentially exposed sexually to thousands of people. And this is how these infections spread. So I don't know if it is the beginning of an epidemic, because it is completely rare to see 2 cases of what looks like a superbug within a few days. Remember, I said I have been doing this for 7 years. I saw the first case in my 7th year of practice a few days ago. Now another one is popping up. So everybody needs to do what? Modify their behaviors. I don't have a right to dictate to people how they, how do I put it now? Their sexual whatever, how they do their sexuality. But I can advise, please, if you want to be doing that, use protection. Okay, so I'm just praying that these are just isolated cases and it's not what I'm thinking, because if it's what I'm thinking, it's going to be very, very bad. So sounding the warning here, let everybody, he who hears, a word is enough for the wise. Protect yourselves in case this is an epidemic.